Now, joining me live is Dr David Adler, who's the president of the Australian Jewish Association and a columnist with The Spectator Australia. Well, David, great to see you. The Israeli government collapsed last night. You better tell us what has happened. The government's only been in place 12 months. Suddenly it's fallen over.
Well, you've got to understand that this was a government formed as a coalition between 8 groups, quite disparate groups, from the right through to the radical left and even the Islamists. And the reason the government was formed was essentially these were the people who found the previous Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, unacceptable. So this was really an anti-Bibi coalition.
It's Trump, isn't it? It's the same thing. Trump's unacceptable. Yeah, Bibi was unacceptable. Great Prime Minister, by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu. We met him here in Sydney. He was terrific. But carry on.
And obviously the values within the group varied considerably and tensions became more and more. In order to try to hold it together, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, who comes from a party called Yamina, which actually means right, politically right, he was seen as making more and more compromises of his values, and it upset a lot of people, and a couple started to leave the coalition. It was only just marginally a majority, and they failed to pass some essential legislation, and hence the end.
Yeah. So so tell me, what does this mean going forward?
Well, what it means going forward is that Israel faces another national election, the 5th in 4 years. Now, although that's problematic in some respects, it needs to be observed that within the Middle East, normally changes of power are violent at the point of a gun. Here in Israel, it's done by voting, by ballot. And we had, as I see you put on the screen, dancing in the street from some people who were very happy with the result. And there will be a democratic transition. And hopefully they'll come up with a more stable government, but that remains to be seen.
Right, okay, we shall see. Now tell us, here in Australia, the new Labor government, last week, they kind of made noises slightly supporting a new statement, but not supporting a new statement. Tell us what happened last week and your reaction to the Labor government's moves.
Well, this issue arose out of an initiative in the United Nations Human Rights Council, which decided to put in place a permanent commission of inquiry to investigate alleged human rights breaches by Israel. Now, on the whole planet, there is only one country which is subject to that process. And there was an objection by a collection of 22 countries, Israel plus 21 allies, which did not include Australia. Normally you would expect Australia to join countries like the United States, the United Kingdom and Canada. And although the Australian representative made a statement critical of what happened in the UN, the fact that Australia failed to join with other allies for a joint statement is, in our view, a significant shift in policy. Australia should have been there, should have stood and be counted, but regrettably did not. So we've called it out as both significant and wrong. And I think people need to know that already within weeks of being elected, Australia has actually moved, at least from a diplomatic perspective, in its position with regard to Israel in supporting the only democracy in the Middle East. And I think that's regrettable and we object to it.
Well, you objected, you were one of the lone voices that spoke up when Biden was, being elected, looked like being elected. Before he was elected, you warned that he would be a danger to, you warned that he would be a danger to peace in the Middle East, but you also said that he was no friend of Israel's. A lot of people slammed you for that. You wrote in The Spectator, we had a cover there. A lot of criticism, very controversial. How dare David Adler say that, Biden is not the God's gift to Israel. You have been proven to be absolutely correct. The latest appointment in the Biden administration is a seriously suspect one, isn't she?
Yes, they're currently going through the confirmation process in the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. And if anyone wants to see more information on this, there's a video of Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, questioning Biden's appointment. And he's drawn out, not only does she have a history of objecting to the Abraham Accords, thinking that they wouldn't work, the most important...
She actually told Saudi Arabia and others, do not sign a peace accord with Israel. How can she now be running the Middle East and in charge of millions of dollars?
And we owe it to Ted Cruz, who also found that an organisation she worked for received a lot of funding from Qatar, a regime that's been very hostile and allegedly has been funding.
Well, you were right. You were right about that with The Spectator. You took a lot of flack for saying that Biden wouldn't be a friend of Israel's. You were 100% correct. You also, in your role, your medical role, you pointed out that lockdowns would be seriously dangerous. You were saying this years ago in The Spectator. Indeed. One of the few medical voices that did, and we now learn today from the World Health Organization, they agree with your articles in The Spectator, David. They're now saying that we've had, and you know, it isn't a laughing matter, but the World Health Organization are now saying that lockdowns have caused a global mental health crisis with our children. You were warning this precise issue over 2 years ago, David.
Look, you're right. This is the same World Health Organization that at the beginning of the pandemic said that there was no human-to-human transmission, echoing the Chinese propaganda. But I think there's more to be revealed, and you don't have to be a medical scientist to understand that over the last couple of years we've had a major disruption to health services. People have not attended their routine health services, and I believe, unfortunately, that in the next few years we will see a bubble of increased morbidity and mortality of delayed cancer diagnoses. Guys haven't gone from their colonoscopes, women haven't gone for their breast screens, cancers get delayed.
It's horrific. It's horrific what's going on. You were calling it out first, David. Well done. Great to have you here on The Bolt Report, and thanks a lot, and we'll speak again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Rowan. Thanks,
David Adler. Thank you.